Dear Pixie, you asked us, I am already polarized positive, but I find the idea of growing into oneself as polarized negative fascinating. You say that there is help for those beings in service solely to self. But how is that if the helpers are also polarized service to self? Also, I see that self-serving beings can grow only to the 7th dimension before switching or neutralising polarity. Does this mean that polarity is neutralised at the 8th dimension? Each individual calls to themselves a matching frequency to the call they give out with their consciousness, calling to themselves others, be they human on earth, extraterrestrial, archetypes, angels, geometric masters, or higher dimensional guidance. Therefore, a service to self individual will call forward a service to self geometric energy of higher guidance. The completely polarized service to self individual incarnate in human form walks a path of discipline, connecting only with their higher guidance in any meaningful way. As for him, others simply do not exist. The guidance is ultimately the same entity that we are, with access to the same knowledge, but with an opposing agenda. It would depend on how you view the word help here, as no judgment is given regarding the individual's choice of polarization. But help in the form of higher guidance is still there. That help responds to a call. That help does their job. That help is an electrical polarity following a law that simply is. If an individual is not polarized service to self enough to ascend along the negative polarity path, then the help, responding in the form of higher guidance, will be service to self and service to others' guidance, working with the individual until they choose their polarization. In what you perceive as the 7th dimension, polarity no longer exists. All is one at this level, and the individualized soul that has moved into this dimensional frequency embraces the collective as the individual. Polarization becomes a frequency of love. Any service to self or service to others polarized entities become flooded with the love frequency at this point, as each individual consciousness becomes individualized and a collective simultaneously. There is no longer any self to serve. There are no longer others to serve. Self and others at this point are one and the same. This 7th dimensional understanding can be and is embraced by some existing within your reality. The laws of your dimension make this understanding difficult to sustain, as 5th dimensional understanding was difficult to sustain and is now much less difficult and quite easy for some, speaking from your perspective of time. So too will 7th density understanding be embraced with ease when that consciousness is anchored upon your planet Earth. In the 7th density, this understanding is easily sustained, experienced and lived, and the energies within guide and teach the consciousness structures in the dimensions below. In actuality, all dimensions exist in the same place, and service to self and service to others are the same frequency. They are perceived, experienced and lived as opposing frequencies in the dualistic 3rd density Earth. The 8th dimension is infinite, and polarity consciousness no longer exists. Creation is the energy experienced here, pure thought and pure creation in one moment. There is no longer what we would perceive as any kind of collective or individual, as pure thought and pure creation is infinite. Yet from your perspective, every thought, every creation in 8th density is in pure service. Therefore, it is appropriate to say that the 8th density is purely a service to others dimension. Yet this description, whilst correct from your perspective, gives an impression of others and also of polarity, and neither of these exist in 8th density and are incorrect concepts from the higher perspective, although correct and incorrect do not exist here either. All dimensions and densities exist in the same place and are governed by the same laws, yet each hold unique perspectives to that density, and this may seem contradictory to many. One can see how perplexing reality is to those firmly entrenched in 3rd density. Yet when one understands the 8th density perspective of pure thought, pure creation, one understands why this law also flows through your 3rd density existence within both polarities of service to self and service to others. We are the white-winged collective consciousness of 9.